Labour MP Lucy Powell is leader of the House of Commons and she joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning, Kate.
Can I first start by getting your reaction to what's happened overnight in America and the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump?
Well, this is an appalling and horrific incident which we condemn completely and wholesomely. And thankfully, President Trump has survived this attempt on his life, because the consequences otherwise are really unthinkable. And we must all join together, which we are doing, in condemning any kind of political violence of this nature. And we wish all of those involved, including President Trump and indeed all of the American people, we wish them all of our thoughts and wishes at this incredibly difficult time.
I mean, taking a slight step back from the immediate sort of aftermath, if you like, of that attempted assassination, do you have concerns about the way that it will change the political rhetoric in America?
I think it's too early to say, and obviously those things need to be looked at. But, you know, we have seen in this country as well, and in other countries, a greater polarisation of the political debate. We have seen more incidents of political intimidation and harassment, and obviously in the UK as well, over the last few years we've seen the murder of two of my colleagues, Joe Cox and David Amis. So the challenge to our democracy and our democratic institutions has never been greater, and that's why we must continue to consider both the security issues, the policing issues, but also the way in which information is shared, mis and disinformation, deep fakes, and so on, that are shared and believed, and the impact that some of this has on the dehumanising of individual politicians, as though they are somehow not human beings who are just trying to do their best for their country and their constituents.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really important point, isn't it? Because as leader of the House of Commons, you do have a role now in MP safety and the way that kind of thing works. What do you think can be done in that role? Because you've got a whole load of new MPs who've just arrived in the House of Commons, and potentially one of the most divisive election campaigns, at least in some areas of the country, that we've seen for many years. I mean, there's reports that they've been issued with attack alarms. Is that the case? And what is being done to help those new MPs navigate what can be a very difficult situation?
Well, look, the security of MPs has been a real priority of the Speaker for many years now, working with myself as shadow leader and now leader, and working with the Home Office and the security ministers, both past and present. And I'm not going to go into them, but there are a range now of increased security measures, unfortunately, which MPs need to have and need to operate around, and they are given lots of guidance about that and about how to go about their business. But one thing we absolutely have to defend is the essence of the democracy in this country and how we go about that democracy. And as constituency MPs, first and foremost, we want to have continued and ongoing contact with our constituents, whether that's through surgeries or hustings events or knocking on doors or going to residents' meetings and that kind of thing. And we have to uphold that and find a way of upholding that. And look, I think one of the things that I've been really found to be very positive is the change of tone that the Prime Minister has taken and wants this government to take, governing for the whole country, bringing people together no matter who you voted for, and to really change the nature of that debate.
Yeah, do you think one of the ways that maybe things could be improved is the type of language that's used in the House of Commons? I mean, this is something that you directly have a say in. Do you think it could be a good idea to try and change the tone of PMQs, maybe try and take it down a notch?
Potentially. I mean, look, I think there's a range of issues here, aren't there, about the conduct in Parliament. You know, part of what I will be doing, and I am doing, working with the Prime Minister and others, is about raising standards of behaviour, raising the culture in Parliament, delivering on our promises, rebuilding trust in politics, and part of that is about saying what we're doing and then doing what we're saying, and really trying to rebuild that trust as well. But we do need to think about how we behave, how we conduct ourselves, and we will be striving for the highest possible standards in this new Parliament and with all of the new MPs that we've got, and I think we've got an opportunity to do that.
Chris Philp is Lucy Powell's shadow. He's the shadow leader of the House of Commons, and he joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Adam.
Your reaction to the assassination attempt on Donald Trump?
Well, I'm absolutely horrified and shocked that democracy has been attacked in this way, because when a public figure, a candidate for office like Donald Trump is attacked in this way, an assassination attempt, it's an attack not just on him as an individual, it's an attack on democracy as a whole. So I'm appalled by what's happened. I'm glad that he managed to escape largely unscathed from this assassination attempt, and I wish him well with his recovery. But it's an appalling attack, as I say, not just on him as an individual, but on democracy as a whole.
Do you think the atmosphere of politics in this country and across the Atlantic is getting more dangerous?
Well, I think we need to be very mindful that any sort of kind of hatred or intimidation in public life is the beginning of a slippery slope that leads to something like this. In the 9 years I've been a member of Parliament, 2 of my colleagues have been murdered doing their constituency duties, Joe Cox and Sir David Amis. And I have seen, I think, and colleagues on both sides of the House have seen an increasingly intimidatory atmosphere that can sometimes develop, particularly around very contentious issues. So I think it's up to everybody involved in public life to try and conduct our debates and our discussions and our disagreements, with respect and with courtesy, and to, wherever we do see intimidation or hatred expressing itself in public life, to call it out and to fight it.
Of course, we shouldn't forget that IRA terrorism killed Ian Gow and Ari Neve and others in the Brighton bomb incident. So this kind of violence is not entirely alien to this country. But I mean, the suggestion, Ms. Philp, is that partly because of social media and partly because of the way in which politicians have perhaps picked up on that kind of mood, it is more polarised out there. I mean, do you experience yourself increasing levels of hostility from the public because you are a Conservative?
Well, I think the political debate or political environment has definitely become more polarised over recent years. And I think people politicians, public servants on both sides of the House, whether they're Labour or Conservative, left wing or right wing, have experienced sort of personal hostility that you would not have seen potentially in the past. And that is definitely fueled by social media, where people get into sort of echo chambers where they only hear their own point of view reinforced with increasing sort of levels of invective. And I think some of the algorithms on those, I used to be technology minister, and I saw some of the algorithms on these platforms actively amplifying the most incendiary communications, which just serves to sort of, in a sense, incite the people expressing those views to just express them with ever increasing levels of anger. And I don't think that is very healthy for our society or our democracy. I think it's up to those social media firms to look again at how they design their algorithms. I think it's also up to anyone in positions of public leadership to make sure that they call out and combat incendiary or hateful sentiments when they encounter them, and also to conduct ourselves public debate and disagreements. Of course, we disagree in a sort of calm way and in a respectful way, rather than in a way that might potentially inadvertently incite people to get even angrier than they might be already.
Do you have any hope that any of that's going to happen in the new Parliament, or will it be back to business as usual pretty quickly?
Well, I've got some hope. I think social media firms are coming under increasing pressure, both through the law. So we've got the Online Safety Act that's going to be getting implemented, which deals more with protecting children and preventing criminality online. But it does give the regulator Ofcom more teeth, a lot more teeth than they had before. So I'm hopeful that the law is getting tougher. I'm hopeful that political pressure around the world, not just in the UK, but around the world on social media firms is intensifying to not unreasonably stoke these fires. And I'm hopeful that politicians on both sides understand more now than perhaps in the past that it is important to dampen down some of this invective rather than pumping it up.
Because it does have to be said that even sometimes with friendly fire, some of the leading contenders for the next leadership of your party are themselves pretty prone to using a very strong invective.
Well, I would say to anyone running for office, whether in the Conservative Party or elsewhere, to make your case in a way that is reasonable and that is well argued, never to resort to personal insults. Thinking about our leadership contest, I would just say to the candidates running, not to resort ever to personal insults. As Ronald Reagan said, never speak ill of a fellow Conservative, but it applies to other political parties as well. I'm not sure anyone is very impressed by personal insults. As Margaret Thatcher said famously, when your political opponents start insulting you personally, it means they've lost the argument.